Okay, hey guys, before we get started today, I have a quick question for you. Do you know who Leonardo of Pisa is? Well, he wrote this really cool book called The Book of Abacus, and I think it should be number one on your reading list. And but what was it about? Well, it was about the mating habits of rabbits. And
Hmm.
you're going, wow, okay, mating habits of rabbits, that's kind of cool. But the work of Leonardo of Pisa didn't really get discovered until around the 19th century when people, because he was a really great mathematician, but you can only take the theory of the breeding habits of rabbits so far, right?
Hmm.
Well, it turns out that this turned out to be the golden ratio that we currently know as Fibonacci's.
Ah.
So that was how Fibonacci's were invented. And I tell you this story for a simple reason. One is as Mike Lamothe and I dig into the Trading Truths podcast, this is our first one. We want you to know that sometimes what you know and believe about trading, just like Fibonacci's, you may have believed one thing, but the really, behind the story behind it's totally different. What we believe may not necessarily be based on the truth. And so, with
Hmm.
that, I am going to basically jump over here and introduce my partner in crime, Mike Lamothe. Mike, how you doing this morning?
Uh, I'm doing much better, much better than I was just a couple of days ago. We were talking about it before. A lot of the audience knows and sent me some well wishes. I was sick all last week, had the flu, 102 fever. It was rough, but God said we need to have this show, and
Right on.
so I'm feeling a lot better right now.
So cool. And so, okay.
Um, Yeah, that was it. I did not know that about Leonardo of Pisa and the Fibonacci's. And to your point, I used to think that the Fibonacci's were voodoo witchcraft, like so many other things.
Yeah, yeah.
And my mindset has since changed. So, uh, looking forward to getting into a lot of trading truths.
Right on. Right on. So, okay. So let's go ahead and I want to welcome everybody who's joined us online. If you are online, please let us know where you're online from. Um, uh, Mike and I really appreciate this. Is again, as we said, this is our first episode of the Trading Truths. And just a little background, we're going to do this every other Monday at 12 noon Eastern time. So it'll be live during the market. So we're wide open to discussing questions you may have and basically help us explore the myths of trading and expose the truth to them. So Mike, what myths are we going to be dealing with today?
All right, so here's the question. Are you letting the fear of losing money paralyze your trading decisions? Even though you have a solid risk management system in place, do you believe that just having more money is going to solve all of your trading challenges?
Hmm. Wow.
Well, what do you think?
Oh, gosh, I think you almost have to divide those two, and let's divide them into two pieces, and then we can join them back together. The first big one is the thing that pop out about me is fear. Fear of losing money paralyzes you, and I
Right.
know for myself in my own trading, that's exactly what has happened in the past a long time ago, and that fear just just I mean literally froze me, and I couldn't make a decision. I couldn't make a
Mm.
decision. And what it turned out to be is I didn't trust my system and I didn't trust myself. What about you?
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, I would say the same thing. I've experienced this and basically like every kind of emotion and fear I think that are out there. But yes, I felt the same way at one point where I was afraid to lose money. The reason why I feel is because I took the money that I had, all the money that I had, put it in, and so I was using all 100% of the capital that I had when I was first starting out. So
Right.
it's like getting behind the wheel of a brand new Mercedes when you're in driver's ed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, probably
Yeah.
not the best idea.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like when I went through flight school, right? Is they didn't take, us young future naval aviators and stick us into the high powered jets we would be flying later on. They put us in an old prop job, a propeller driven aircraft, where that was, less, very inexpensive. So just in case there was an accident, they weren't going to basically be losing that much.
Mhm.
And, but what happened is as we got better in our flighting skill, we graduated into better airplanes, right? And better
Mhm.
missions and this type of thing. And I think it's very similar here with respect to, the fear, the risk management, and all that type of stuff. And so, what do you think about, um, the concept? Okay, in one case, one of the myths is the fear of losing money. But then the other one is basically this idea. What, I mean, how would you describe the other idea? If I just have more money, I'll be able to trade better. Is that what the guy's saying?
Well, if you have more money, that like part of it. So I think that having money to trade is important to an extent, right? Like, so let's say that you're somebody that is starting out with $100, right?
Right.
Like, there's gonna be you're very limited in what you're able to do with that. Although now you're able to buy fractional shares and all these kinds of things. That there's no transaction fees like there were back in the day. A long time ago, $100 wouldn't be able to
Sure.
cover your transaction fee, right? So you couldn't do it. Um, but I think that part of the problem too could be, and I know that it was for me a long time ago. So I'm speaking from a personal perspective, is that uh, the larger my trading account, the quicker, not only the quicker would I be able to compound gains, but it would be able to get me out of uh, a job that I didn't like,
Mm,
or be able to get me out of an old apartment and into a new house,
right on.
and just get these things in the future that don't exist, but I'm dreaming about.
Mhm.
And so now all of a sudden I'm tying all my dreams and hopes to trading and having more money and thinking that that's the solution.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So, so basically, if I understand what you're saying, is you were kind of focusing on the outcome, the money,
Mhm.
and not so much focusing on the process,
Right.
mastering the process. Yeah?
Oh, sure, because you just take some money, you put it in, and more money magically pops out the other side, right? Isn't that how trading
Yeah,
works?
exactly. Well, are you familiar with the story John Carter sometimes shares, and that he shares about, uh, he was getting ready to get married. He'd saved like $30,000 or something like that. And not saved, he had basically earned $30,000 through trading options, right?
Mm,
And so he got to thinking to himself, he says, well, if I just, take a little bit more exposure, I can get $60,000 because I can multiply this really fast trading options and
mm,
buy the new house for my new bride and make her really, really happy. And and basically pay down that house really, really fast. And he went in and he laid in some trades, but because he didn't have his developed system at the time, he got whacked big, and the market
Oh,
came and ripped his face off. He lost all the $30,000. He had to go then and take his credit card and max out several credit cards by taking cash advances to make up the 30,000,
God,
so
jeez.
that his future wife wouldn't know that he didn't have the money for the down payment. And it seemed, and I share that with you, in that basically when you have these fears, when you're trading without a plan, it can compound. The compounding works the other way too, of it compounding mistakes and compounding fear, because now he was not only afraid of of having lost the money, but he was afraid of what his new wife was going to do to him. And so I know I've walked down that path with regarding these two myths also.
Yeah, wow, it's crazy. And hey, you know what? I used to think that, um, the worst that could happen, you blow up your account and you're at zero. You've given us a new perspective. Well, you could go way below zero by maxing out your credit cards and trying to.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's uh, man, oh man, yeah. If anybody watching can take away anything from this, don't do that. Don't max out your credit cards. Don't put anything. No trading. Yeah, don't use your credit cards for trading.
And so, and another thing we can ask everybody, Mike, is just, and we'll ask again before before we're done, is basically, what is your biggest frustration about trading? It may come into trading pain points, but what's your biggest frustration of trading? If from the time you started until now, or maybe you're having your biggest frustration now, if you put that in the chat box, I'd really appreciate it, because that'll give us ideas of things we can be covering on future episodes of the podcast, and also and what are things need to be added to that question, Mike?
Added to the question for
Yeah, the biggest source that they ask people to tell us what their biggest source of frustrations are.
yeah, well, I think that if people tell us, I thought that was, I saw somebody pop something, that was you writing back to somebody. Yeah, I think that that's a great start.
Okay.
We'll leave it with that.
Cool. And
But
yeah, and just to let everybody know, the way we envision this, our podcast working, is that we're basically going to just basically first pull back the covers, or the shroud of these myths that we may be believing, and expose the pain points that they could trigger in each one of us, and 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 which basically impacts our trading and sets us up, I think, for emotional, I won't say failure, but
angst.
yeah, angst. And it basically stimulates emotions that, if left unstimulated, we could basically trade better. In my opinion, we could trade better. And so,
Oh yeah, of course. And these are the kinds of myths that it's not something where you just hit it once and then you get over the hurdle, and then you're gone. These could be things that hold you back for years.
oh heavens, yeah. Oh gosh, yes. I mean, it took me, from the time I first started trading, it took me over 10 years to come up with, to basically develop my system, and probably another 4 or 5 years to develop the trust in the system and trust in myself to use the system because that's a big deal, right? Because and a lot of it had to do with just the impression I had of our belief I had about myself. I'm a former naval aviator, used to drop bombs for a living, kind of, just, kind of very gallant, but very flippant also at the same time, thinking, I don't need no stinking rule. Yeah, I got the rules, but I don't need no stinking rules because I'm smarter than the market. And that has ripped my face off so many times that it's just, it's staggering. By heavens, I blew up 2 accounts with that kind of attitude. And oh my gosh, I wish there had been 2 guys like you and me back when I was doing that who could have, whispered in my ear, "Hey, Dennis, get your head out of your butt and, start learning how to trade the right way." And and we did. So, but Mike, there's 10 basic, and I'm going to hit these pain points really fast. We're not going to dwell on them, but if one of these triggers any response, please basically put a note in the comments. And first, the pain points are inconsistent trading results. Second one is lack of dependable strategies. Emotional decision makings. Number 3, risk management concerns. That comes to trusting your system. Limited time for trading. I know when I used to work full time, work in the industry out there, I was always running out of time. Fear of making incorrect decisions, fear of losing capital, not reaching financial goals, lack of clarity and confidence, and impact on emotional well-being, which I think leads us into the next section, Mike, is just how, from your perspective, because, Mike has written this really awesome book that I will share with everybody. This one right here called, let me get it back over the middle. That's not your book, Mike. What did I do? It is a really good book. Well, darn.
Yeah, is it April yet?
Yeah. Hey, Mike, go ahead with this section where you're going to talk about the problem, and I'll find the 2 props that I had to show everybody. Anyway, go ahead, man.
All right, sure. So, well, the problem that we were going to talk about was money will solve all my problems, and I saw 2 big issues with that. Number one, it's just plain false. Uh, Money does not solve all problems, right? Like, so if you if you were to deconstruct the sentence, money will solve all my problems. Well, perhaps it'll solve some of your problems, but there's no way that it's going to solve all problems for anyone. But number 2 is that it's a form of idolatry.
Yeah, right on.
So it's like the golden calf. If you think that money is going to solve your problems, it's like putting money on this pedestal, and it just in doing that, it leads to a whole host of other problems. For example, if you think that money is going to solve all of your problems, then it will probably lead you to be stuck in the mud, meaning that you're going to have this gigantic fear of losing money on both the upside and on the downside. Because money is going to solve all my problems. Well, if money is going to solve all my problems, then I start to make a little bit of progress, then, well, now I'm afraid to lose that. So let me take those gains real quick.
Right on.
And on the downside, too, you start to lose a little bit of money. Let me cut this, and maybe it doesn't even get anywhere close to a stop loss or anywhere close to where you should be exiting a trade prematurely. And so what happens is, instead of having an equity curve that's going up, and then maybe it goes down a little bit, and then it starts to rise, and you have this equity curve that's moving up and to the right, you just have this equity curve that basically flatlines. And that's one problem. Another thing is poor skill development. if you're focused on money, then where's your focus not? You could be you need to be focused on one thing,
Right.
right? If your focus is on money, then your focus is not on skill development. It would be akin to um, putting an address into a GPS of a car, going for a drive, and instead of focusing on the road, you focus on the GPS, and then you hit a tree. Right? Well,
Yeah.
that's not the purpose the of any of this. And then it's likely going to create other time management problems too, because if you're so focused on money, then you're not doing any of the other things too. The mentioned skill development already. Well, what about taking care of yourself, your health, your well-being, your
Right on.
family, any of these other things? So it's well, whenever we get into any form of idolatry, it creates so many other problems,
Mm.
and I think that's probably one of the reasons why it showed up early in the Bible in the Old Testament.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
And so, and and we know that the um, that aspect of, as you mentioned, the ancient script, it always talks about, where to focus, and it always wants you to focus, first on God, and then, submit your ways to Him, and He'll direct
mm,
your path and direct your. But if money is, as you said, kind of like, if that is your God or your higher being, that's not, if you submit yourself to that, it's not going to come out with some, supernatural or wise plan for how to get more of it. It's basically, it is an inanimate object that, and it can be a tool, and having a healthy understanding of what it actually is. There was a session that I was listening to, and it basically said that high performers focus most on mastering the process
mm.
and don't focus on the outcome. And I think that's a relationship in here. Um, and then, did you hear the Mark Minervini interview that he did with Investor Business Daily?
Uh, I've heard several. Which
It,
one?
the,
There
the,
was a
it was
recent one that he did on trading psychology.
Yeah, and part of what he said was just, it blew my mind. He said that, if you have let's say you lose $2,000 in the market, right? And then immediately after you hit your stop loss, you lose the money. You basically, it's gone, and the stock rebounds. And if you would have been held on to it for 3 more days, you would have made $25,000, right? And so you have this belief that I really screwed up. I did really, really bad. And it makes you feel bad, right? And then on the flip side of that, if you lose the $2,000 and then 3 days later it gaps down and you would have lost $25,000, all of a sudden that $2,000 loss isn't so bad, right? And you're going, oh, this is kind of cool.
Yeah,
And
yeah, it feels good. Well, when you're because in a sense you were right to sell if price continues to fall, and in a sense you're wrong if price rebounds right off the level. Then you're questioning yourself. Oh, well, did I place my stop loss in the right spot? Should I
yep,
be using hard stops in the market, and all those kinds of things?
right. And
And the there might be a little bit of truth in some of that, right? You should question: are you placing your stops in the correct spot?
Sure.
You don't want to
Sure.
just be placing them all willy nilly,
Yeah.
uh, but it doesn't mean that we should just throw our plans out the window,
Yeah.
especially if they're rooted in something that's been proven.
And so the I guess when Marx summed it up, he basically said, learn to accept the reality of trading. And when you view everything in hindsight,
Mhm.
remember it's an illusion. Wow, I kind of went, wow, that kind of hit me right in the face. That whatever we look at in hindsight, we can take away what we can learn from it, like you were saying. But if we're doing it to second guess ourselves and to basically pull in these emotional feelings of feeling good or feeling bad, it's really an illusion because it's not what really happened in the market. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right. Yes, I remember this part. The risk has to be managed in real time.
Yep. And so and so we've identified the problem, and Mike talked about it from both you know the mindset is just a Mike, do you think that mindset is a combination both of what we take in and choose to believe, but it's both physical and spiritual?
Well, that's a very interesting
And if
perspective.
and I don't want to get off course here, but
Yeah, no, not at all. Um, is it? Say that one more time. I want to make sure that I understand the question. I
okay.
want to chew on this.
Okay. If we believe that we are basically um, uh, what mind, body, and soul, or something like that, is part of our mindset and our beliefs. Because oftentimes what we believe are in things that are we really can't. They're not concrete. Some of them are, some of them aren't. But we can't have beliefs that have nothing to do with reality. But we are hard in our beliefs that basically our beliefs can encompass both a physical side and a spiritual side. Is that
Right.
is is that is and that's kind of the what do you think about that as a statement?
Well, I think that mindset is our beliefs and our belief systems.
Hmm. Okay.
So uh, our beliefs can evolve over time. Our beliefs can change. Some beliefs can fade away.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's really up to us to mow our mental lawn, so to speak,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
to weed
Yeah.
our mental gardens. So, um, for somebody that was having this dilemma of money will solve all my problems, and maybe they're listening to this and now they're starting to question, well, it doesn't seem like that's such a great idea. Well, what do I do? Um, the first uh, the first thing to do is to deconstruct that belief.
Hmm.
Where did it come from? In what ways is it serving you? But even to know where it came from in the first place is important because let's just say that you heard that from something on TV that you don't really care about anymore. Well, then that's one way that it might be a little bit easier to get rid of that belief, right? Like just keep that in a box for a second.
Right.
Versus, let's say that you got that from your mom and you love your mom and you do whatever your mom says, and part of your other belief systems say that I need to honor my mother and father, so
Yep. Yep.
I'm gonna just accept whatever they say
Yep.
as truth, and if I go against it, then that's a sin against God,
Right. Right.
let's
Right.
say. So then now all of a sudden, if the belief came from mom, then I've got a bunch of other things to have to deal with. So that's why it's important to know where the belief comes from. So that way we could start to figure out, well, how do we uh, dislodge this mental weed, right?
Mm,
What do we need to do? Do we need to spray a certain herbicide on it? Do we need to pull it out from the root? Well, what do we need to do?
yeah,
And what
yeah,
else is it connected to? So
that's
once we start to deconstruct the belief, and we've successfully done that, I think that the second biggest thing that people could do is get around other people that have better money beliefs, and
oh
to do
yeah,
that
oh that's
consistently.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah, do that consistently, because if you're just around somebody that has decent money beliefs just once, or maybe once a month, or once like a quarter or something, I don't think that'll do it. I think that's an improvement, but the more
right.
that you could get around other people that have better beliefs, uh, it's going to rub off.
So Mike, what I'm hearing you saying is that for us to basically move into a better belief system, we need to be one challenging our current beliefs. Okay,
Hmm.
where do they and find out where they came from? Are they really true? Secondly, taking a look around at who our friends are in a way. Okay, and because they basically they say that you are the average of your five closest friends, right? And we may need to hit a reboot on our friends. I mean I know that sounds horrible and terrible, but if they're pulling you back where from you being able to change your belief system, then it's time to get an upgrade, folks. Get an upgrade. At least start associating. Find a like basically if you're the best person and the most knowledgeable in your top five friends, you may need to go find some new friends so that
Hmm.
they can start pulling you up rather than holding you back. And so that's a thought. So, you know, Mike talked about the problem with these, and then but there on the flip side of that, there's a technical outlook also. Back in the day, you see my hat. I am an old. I'm an old. I put the old in Navy. Um, but I used to hang around with a lot of Navy SEALs. And did you know that Navy SEALs, when they go through BUDS training down in Coronado, in fact, one of the guys that I went to college with, Bill McCraven, who you may have seen him on YouTube several times, Admiral Bill McCraven, talking about discipline and making your bed and all that kind of stuff. You may have heard his little video on that, which is absolutely true. But when the guys go through BUDS, that they don't change the training, Mike. They don't change the training with every new class that comes in. Why? Because they have a system that works. They know that it produces the best special ops forces in the world. And so they don't mess with success. So I'm telling you this about the Navy SEALs simply to show you that there's a lot of systems out there that are absolutely great systems. As a matter of fact, you don't need to tweak with them that much. Those of us with a technical background, oftentimes engineers and the Ivy Tower syndrome, and speaking of, I am an engineer, is we have a tendency to kind of go in and look at a system and go, oh, yes, but I can make it better. And the
Hmm.
fact of the matter is the wasted time in trying to make it better, it's 80% great in making money. Stop messing with it. And I'm saying this to basically come back to we need to learn how to, one, trust your system, have a plan. It needs to be written down on paper so that you can then judge while you're doing on it. And so that's kind of the technical perspective of addressing these two myths. if I'm afraid to lose money, or I know I have a good system in place, but I'm, or I think money will take care of everything, it takes your focus away from what you really need to be doing, which is focusing on your process. Many people, all the way from Mark Douglas, Mark Minervini, many folks, and even this guy who wrote this book. It's the right book this time,
There
Mike.
you go.
Trading Mindset.
Right.
And the guy who wrote this book, which is Trade Your
Oh,
Way
that's
to
a great
Freedom.
one.
and that those are actually Mike and Mike wrote the Trading Mind Wheel, and I wrote the Trade Your Way to Freedom. Mike was kind enough to do the intro to that, but it's a factor of trust and learning to trust. And how do you learn to trust? Well, one, you practice. When I was stationed at Seal Beach, California, I used to belong to a golf club that was the Los Alamitos Golf Club. And there happened to be a young man there who would be practicing every time I would go out to, practice also. He'd be on the driving range, or he would be on the putting green, and his dad would be standing behind him, and they would be putting, and his dad would be clapping and yelling while he was, to make sure that this young man maintained the focus on his, his putting. And he would be at the end of the driving range all by himself, hitting thousands and thousands and thousands of balls. And I had a couple of chances to, we'd go out and play 9 holes or so. And occasionally this young man would join us as we were playing. And you might wonder why this kid became such a great professional. Well, it's because of what was instilled at him at the beginning. He learned how to be a winner. And, watching the young Tiger Woods grow up and play golf like that was inspirational to me, that I've taken forward to, to basically apply to the other things I've done in life. And so from a technical standpoint, Mike, it basically is, that there are very few systems, really, there are very few processes out there. And there, without some there's a few variations, but basically they cover 6 things. They tell you what you're going to trade, when to get in, when to get out, what strategy to use, what to expect. And they all say, find a mentor to help you. And when you start doing that, because you then are a community to work within, when you start doing that, the cool thing about it is a lot of these myths are displaced, and the fear is replaced by a trust in both yourself, your system, and the team that's around you. So that's how you can handle this issue, these myths from a technical standpoint. And so how do we integrate these, Mike? How do we integrate both the technical and the mindset? What can we be practicing from a mindset perspective? Like, do we rehearse our trades, or do you get up in the morning and I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I actually think that what you just said, was a big part of what people could do. Getting around other people. I remember my own journey, and from hearing your story early on too, that it took you 10 years. It took me 10 years also. I didn't realize that we both had that in common. But the thing that got me over the hump was, well, when I finally got around the guys at the IBD meetups, right? Like I eventually found O'Neill's book, How to Make Money in Stocks. That took me 10 years to find. Read that, devoured it, read it a dozen times. Then found the New York City IBD meetup, got around those people. And inside a year, now all of a sudden I'm starting to trade successfully, and they invite me to be a leader of the group. So there's a lot to be said for getting around other people that have a similar mindset, that are trying to achieve a similar goal, and that you could work together with. I think that that's probably the single biggest hack to shortcutting success that there is. Getting around other people, mentoring, coaching, at the very least, being a part of a group.
Okay. Okay. So I just typed into that question again. What is your biggest source of frustrations in the chat box? And folks, don't be shy. And don't be a ghost out there. Just drop the comments in there so that we can improve. We want this to be something you're going to want to come back to on every other Monday, 12 noon Eastern time. And Mike and I will basically take on any issue or myth or pain point or frustration that you have about trading. Now, don't come in with your personal life. We don't do that. But but no, I agree wholeheartedly, Mike. Getting with other people, but and also surrounding yourself with people on the same journey, because and recognizing that your mentor isn't meant to necessarily be your hero. They're meant to be your guide. I think it's important that people also take responsibility for their own trading story so that they can become the hero of their own story. They can establish a legacy for themselves, which will basically go into their families, go into the people around them. Because Mike, you and I have a really big objective with this this podcast and other things, and I want to share that with people right now. It is Mike and I have an objective of reaching, ready, drum roll please, 100,000 people. 100,000 people over the next, how long, Mike? Set a date. 12 months?
Yeah, this year.
This year, okay. So in the next 9 months, 10 months, right? 100,000 people. But we want to approach it. We want to basically reach them for a couple of different reasons. And I'm going to be very open about this. We want to reach them and to help them have something that Mike's been developing called a 5-star trading experience or trading results, right, Mike?
Yeah. Because it's going to be slightly different for everybody, right? So if you're someone that's very experienced, well, what 5-star year looks like to you is going to be very different from the person that's just starting out. And the person that's just starting out has a 5-star year, that's going to look different to them. You're both capable of having it, well, whatever your definition is, but the idea is to be able to help a wide variety of people, and by debunking these myths, Dennis and I will hopefully be able to do that for a lot of people.
Okay. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And so that's part of the deal. When Mike mentioned that aspect of a 5-star trading year, it's got my imagination going. And one of the things I'm thinking about, Mike, is that is inclusive. The 5-star trading experience, as you said, it's going to be different for everybody depending on where they are currently in their journey. But I encourage people to start using your imagination and actually start visualizing what it would mean for you to have 5-star success with your trading in the rest of 2024. and put it down on paper. Put it down on paper in your trading journal. Basically, where you tie it to, you may tie it to productivity, but it may be, I encourage you also to tie it also to your process. In other words, what is your routine? And so how do you link it to that? But there's more. But wait, there's more. Because we also both believe, both Mike and I are Christians, and we believe that we are intended also to share our faith. Now, we're not going to be basically standing on the corner on a soapbox or anything like that, but we want to let you know that our beliefs that way do guide our decisions. Right, Mike?
Well, of course.
Okay.
Our beliefs are our internal programming.
Right
And
on.
so well, let's say that you have a MacBook, right? You have your MacBook. Well, it's not going to be able to run Windows, right? Because it's a MacBook.
Right
So
on.
Your beliefs are what guide your actions. And so
Okay. So, okay, guys, we're at the end of our time. We're at 46 minutes, and we promised we'd cut it off at 45 minutes. So just do a really simple call to action. I encourage you, if you basically like what Mike and I are doing, to basically subscribe to either of our YouTube channels, both at Market Tech Talk and Mara Wealth is Mike's channel. And remember to tune in and turn on the notifications so that you'll get notified the next time we have, 2 weeks from now, when we have our next session. And I just, again, I hope the insights we've shared today and have helped generate some thoughts on your part. And so to make you a better trader, and that you can really step forward to be the hero of your own story. Mike, I'll reserve the last words for you.
Well, Dennis, I appreciate it. This show has been fun. It's been insightful. One of the things that I selfishly wanted to take from this podcast was being able to be on here and talk to you every 2 weeks. So that's a thrill for me. Well, one last thing that I wanted to that I just remembered about the 5-star trading year that I'd like to give to people too. Well, when you're starting to think of what's a 5-star process look like? Well, what's 5-star results look like? Also think about first, what does a 1-star year look like in that regard? And then bump it up to 2, then 3, 4, go to 5. But then once you get to 5, then start to stretch your mind a little further. What does a 6-star year look like?
Right.
How about 7? How about 9? And you might get to something ridiculous when you're at like a 9 or an 11-star year. But you'll probably find something in there that could be a good stretch goal. So that's what I wanted to add about that.
Yeah, that reminds me of one of my favorite verses, which is Ephesians 3:20, and in there it says that God's miraculous power, He will exceed our wildest imagination. So, one, have a bigger imagination. So, I just want to say aloha and God bless everybody. And we're cutting the end of the stream off. Thanks for joining. Mike, stand by.
God bless.